This is the single greatest table saw upgrade that I have ever found. It literally changes how you use your table saw forever. It's that good. And it's about to get better. If you'd like to check out this bow extender fence or any of the accessories that I show today, I'm going to link them in the description and the pinned comment to help you find them easier. Let me show you what this thing does. If you follow the channel, you may know that I reviewed this bow extender fence last year, and I think was one of the best tool upgrades that you could make. I love the fact that this clamps to basically any fence. It doesn't matter if it's a contractor saw, a job site saw like this one, or even a cabinet saw. And adding the stock accessories to it, like the in-feed and out-feed support, as well as those vertical feather boards, just takes it to the next level. This adds a ton of functionality, especially to these smaller saws, because now you can cut safer and more accurate just with this single add-on. But like any tool, there's always a little room for improvement. I've got 3 simple and cheap accessories that we're going to be able to make for this that takes this small job site saw and gives it cabinet saw capabilities. And I've got free plans for all of this linked in the description, so check this out. Now all of these accessories are using the bow knobs and those T-bolts. I'll link to those as well so you can find them. If you're new or don't know much about the bow fence, before we get to the accessories, let me show you everything this thing can do, because it is next level when we talk about how to upgrade a table saw, especially these smaller saws. So basically what happens is this bow extender fence is an extruded aluminum fence, and the way they've designed it, it will clamp to any fence pretty much. Just like this job site style saw, or even my saw stop style fence, it will clamp to that and adds a lot of functionality. First, you can add vertical feather boards. That gives you that vertical pressure down, and it just keeps things from moving on you, especially when you're cutting longer stocks. And then when you pair that with the bow feather boards themselves on the horizontal plane, it keeps everything pushed against that fence and down toward the table, and everything comes out perfect when you're cutting. That's what I love about this system. And you can also add these in-feed and out-feed supports, and that's where things start leveling up. Because now you've got enough support, especially on these smaller style tables, where you just don't have enough room. On a cabinet saw, yeah, you've got extra room for the outfeed, you got some extra room for the infeed, but on these job site style saws, it's just so small, you don't have a lot of room. And these infeed and outfeed supports really help when you're cutting longer stock, but they could be improved. Now these infeed and outfeed supports are absolutely a must-have for this fence in my opinion, because you're gonna use them a ton. But if you're cutting wider boards, this is where things start getting a little hairy, because basically you've gone back to your cut piece is supported, so it's not gonna fall, but the off-cut piece is where things start falling. For one, it damages your wood, and it can get dangerous if you try to reach and grab and stop it from falling or anything like that. So this is where I think we can improve this a great deal. Now when you start cutting wider boards, say wider than a 2x4, maybe a 1x6, or sheet goods that aren't too wide, or even thicker boards like 2x12s and things like that, you need some extra support. And that's where this little jewel comes in. Basically what this does is it extends your outfeed support to give you more support for that off-cut piece on these wider boards. All of these are very, very simple to make. And again, all 3 have free plans available, so you can make these in no time. Basically, you're just gonna slip this on where the current outfeed support is. It is tapered on the front side, just to help in case the board sags a little bit out there or whatever, it'll still catch and go up on there, and it gives you that support. As you can see here, cutting the MDF, it helped hold it up. Literally, you don't have to worry about anything falling now. And when I cut this 2x12, which is where things start getting a little interesting, because if you cut a 2x12 without this extra support, it's just gonna fall. It could fall off and hit your saw and knock your saw over if it's a big enough board. So this is where this really helps, because now we have 12 inches of extended support to help us with those wider boards or wider sheet goods that aren't too wide yet. But what about cutting very long boards like this 10-foot 2x4 you see here? That's where this comes into play, and this is just an extended support. In other words, it gives you an extension table on your table saw. Now what's great about this is, again, very simple to make, and again, free plans on how to make this. It's dead simple. You're not gonna have any issues making this. It does also include a little bevel here on the end just to help catch that board if there's any reason it sags a little bit after it comes off the saw. Now attaching this to the fence is extremely easy. It works just like the in-feed and out-feed supports that attach already. You have the T-bolts, they slide right in, you tighten those knobs up, it's there. You don't have to worry about it. And now you can rip down longer boards. Like this 10-foot 2x4, I was able to rip the edge off of it It kept supported all the way through the cut. I don't have to worry about it falling. I don't have to worry about it coming unbalanced and causing a kickback or anything like that. So if you're cutting a lot of longer boards like 1x4s, 2x4s, things like that, this is where this attachment's really going to shine. Before adding this on, what happens is when you cut a longer board like this 10-foot 2x4, it acts very similar to that wider board that we talked about earlier, where once you get a certain amount into the cut, the weight of the board on the back side starts pulling or pushing up on your push stick. It also can come up off the table. It can cause a kickback. It can also cause inaccurate cuts because things start moving and hopping around up there, and that's not what you want. And that's where this really does shine because it gives it that support. Now, one thing you may notice is on a longer board, especially on a thicker board that's going to be a little bit heavier, you may need to support this longer piece because you can see even on this one, a 2x4, it's bouncing a little bit. Didn't bother the cut at all. But when you start getting thicker boards that are going to be heavier, and the plans actually include this, you'll want to put an extendable leg on there or a fold down leg, just like the next jig is going to have. And so it's very, very simple to do. You can add that to this 30-inch extension and it's really going to make it more stable, and I would actually recommend it. Again, it's in the plans anyway. Just go ahead and put those on there. Last but certainly not least, probably the belle of the ball, the gem that really transitions this into basically a full workshop. So think outfeed table support on a job site saw. Because it has this leg that extends down, it's going to allow you to cut giant sheets of plywood like this 4x8 sheet of plywood by yourself on a smaller saw. And that's where this really shines, because if you've ever tried to cut a full sheet of plywood by yourself on a small saw, you know what a pain in the rear that is and how difficult it is to get good, accurate cuts, because it's very difficult to hold that thing up there, especially when you start making the cut on the off-feed side. What winds up happening is the weight transfer goes to the back of the saw, and then it starts popping up on the front of the saw, and after the cut, it just falls to the ground. It's unsafe, and it's just not a fun thing to do by yourself. What's great about this attachment is it attaches to your bow extender fence, and you can move it left and right depending on how much support you need, on which side of the blade you need it. This attachment's 44 total inches wide. It does also have that beveled edge to help catch that plywood as it ramps up on there, should it be sagging, especially like 1/4 inch. Thinner plywood tends to sag a little bit after the cut. It's just nature of the beast, but it's also extremely easy to make this and cheap. When you install this and you start cutting your sheet goods, even thicker plywoods like this 3/4 inch plywood, you can manage it easier because once you get the cut all the way through and that weight does transfer, you've got a lot of support here on the back, especially because you have this extended leg there. It's going to really support that weight. You're not going to have to worry about that. It just makes things safer, again, more accurate and easier on you. And when you get to cutting larger sheets like this big 4x8 sheet of 1/4 inch plywood, you can see that it's much easier to manage with this accessory. So everything is supported all the way through the cut, and it makes it much, much easier to control and do by yourself. I know a lot of us are working in shops by ourselves or on job sites by ourselves. This is just giving yourself an extra hand, especially when you start cutting those sheet goods. What's great about this accessory, just like those other three, is it's easy on, it's easy off, and then this one has quite a bit of adjustment, so you can adjust it to be basically whatever size you need to help catch those offcuts. If you don't have a bow extender fence yet, seriously consider it. I'm telling you, it levels up your table saw like no other upgrade that I've seen on the market to date. And when you pair that with the wider feed support, the longer feed support, and the sheet good support, you turn this little job site or compact table saw into a complete workstation that you can manage these larger pieces by yourself. And it makes it safer and more accurate with the cutting. What's amazing is all of these can be built in just a few minutes each. They can be installed on and off in seconds, and it transforms your compact or job site saws into a complete workstation that you can be cutting these larger pieces by yourself. It makes everything more stable, makes things safer, especially with those wider and longer pieces that can be a challenge to do by yourself. Now this bow extender fence comes in 3 sizes, 24, 36, and 46. I personally think 46 is the sweet spot, especially for these type saws and these accessories. That's the one I'm gonna recommend. All of these fences will clamp to the bandsaw fence as well, so it really one fence will transform multiple tools. So go check them out. I think you'll really, really appreciate having these. Link in the description and the pinned comment to help you find all of this easier. Now, one thing you should know, I think you should know, is all three of these jigs come from the mind of Mike Taylor, who owns TayTools.com. You have no idea how much he's given to the woodworking community, absolutely free, like this brilliant idea, as well as probably hundreds more that are on dozens of channels across YouTube. And so support him if you can. Mike Taylor, thank you so much for sharing this idea with us and just literally changing woodworking for the better, always. Thank you. Seriously, the dude's a genius. You should support him, TayTools.com. Links in the description to all this stuff. If you have any questions about this or you've got your own upgrades you've made, please drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear about them. If you like this video, check out the Bow Extender Fence original review right there. You can see even more stuff that this thing can do. Click in the box, get you the big old virtual fist bump.